Hey everyone, my name is Lyron. I'm one of the co-founders of Seismic, and today I'll be making the case for why we need to kill privacy. And first, starting off with some background here, the reason that I'm giving this talk is that we're losing the war on privacy. Privacy founders are getting prosecuted, privacy coins aren't getting listed or are actively getting delisted, and generally, for the consumer opinion of what privacy protocols are, is that it's something that it's nuclear. Don't touch it or else you risk getting implicated with something that's pretty unsavory. And as a result, builders have one of three reactions. Builders either one, pivot. They say, I don't really want to waste 5 years of my life on something that might never see the light of day, so I'm out of here. They say that, they do that, or they rebrand. They say, we're not privacy, we're shielding, we're data sovereignty, we're every other word that is not privacy. And three, the third reaction that we've seen commonly is the double downing of this, which is privacy is a human right that everyone should have. This is a hill that we're willing to die on. We're going to fight till the very end. And these three, I see these as the stages of grief of a privacy project. Like you're looking at all three, and I can speak from personal experience that Seismic has done all three. And having done all of them, I can confidently say that none of them are going to work. The only thing that's going to work is if we kill privacy. And so that's the framing of our discussion that we have here today. And we're going to be spending the rest of the time working backwards to see how we got to this conclusion. And we're going to do that via two questions. First, we're going to answer, how did we get here? And then after that, we're going to ask the question, how do we get out? And by which we're going to say we need to kill privacy. And starting off with the first one, this has a sub-question. We need to start off and ask, what is privacy in the first place? Because this is this nebulous definition that is never really agreed upon between practitioners, between users, and between onlookers of the space. So the way that I think about privacy and the way that I'm going to use privacy in this talk is I'm going to say privacy is a hiding commitment. A hiding commitment is a jumble of letters and numbers that is the output of some function. And this jumble of letters and numbers has a special property that is, given the jumble of letters, you can't go backwards. You can't say, hey, here's this jumble, I'm going to figure out what input it is. And it's super simple. It's an easy-to-grok construction that is the foundation of so many elaborate and so many useful protocols that we've seen in the Web 2 world. So if we're looking at this and we're saying, okay, this is really useful in Web 2, it stands to reason that in blockchains, where cryptography is so imbued into the technology and so imbued into the application layer as well, that hiding commitments would be everywhere. And I was surprised to figure out that this was actually wrong. What I estimate is that hiding commitments have in fact only been utilized up to 5% of their total potential. And you might see this number and you might say, okay, really? Like, that seems unreasonable. Like, we've known about privacy, as MJ said, we've known about privacy and we've talked about privacy in its relation to blockchain since the Zero Cash paper in 2014. And I'm telling you right now that in the last 10 years, we've only taken the hiding commitment and done 5% of what we can actually do with it. And that's incredulous. That's probably going to be met with a lot of incredulousness. And I say it's true, and the reason is because we got anchored. We got anchored by a protocol called Tornado Cash. Now, Tornado Cash, most people in this room know, is a technology that provides anonymous money. It was one of the most exciting tools for anonymity technology in the past decade. And as a result, it proliferated. Everyone in 2019 and 2020, if you even knew about crypto, you knew the words Tornado Cash. And as a result, many people's first introductions to the concept of privacy, to the concept of zero knowledge, to the concept of hiding commitments was Tornado Cash. And that was a good and a bad thing. And the main bad thing is that in people's heads, people started equating the entire space of privacy to what protocols that look like Tornado Cash could offer. That means everyone started having this false equivalence relationship in their head that was hiding commitment is equal to anonymity. And that is just quite simply not true, because what's more accurate is this. Anonymity is a small subset of what hiding commitments can provide. And this is where the 5% number comes in. And even more so than that, anonymity is the riskiest 5% because it's the 5% of privacy technology that can launder money and has a high risk profile for everyone that's a builder and everyone that's a user. And this is an anchor that was set down by Tornado Cash in 2019, and even today we still feel it. When you talk to someone at random at the conference and they say, "Oh, we're working on privacy tech," you immediately think, "Hey, hey, privacy tech is Tornado Cash. What are they doing that really requires anonymity? What type of application are they trying to build? And so this anchor still exists today. And so when I say that we're losing the war on privacy, what we really are, we're losing the war on anonymity. And when I say we need to kill privacy, I'm really saying that we need to kill privacy's false equivalence relationship with anonymity, because privacy is so much more. And I want to stop here and acknowledge that this is a really radical thing to say, and it's an unfortunate thing to say, and don't get me wrong. Anonymity technology is something that every single human on this world should have access to, and telling everyone that we need to put a hold on this in favor of other bits in the stack is an aggressive and upsetting thing to say. But at the end of the day, it's better to be put on hold than hung up on. And that's the path that we're going down if we keep this equivalence relationship with privacy and anonymity in people's heads. And so the upshot here should be the goal. Right now, everyone thinks of privacy as that little subset. We need to focus our efforts over the next few years at associating privacy to this big subset, the green field of applications that do new things and that provide better security guarantees to users, but don't end up having a high risk profile that could get builders and users in trouble. And so how do we do this? The first thing that we need to realize is that Tornado Cash anchored us not just in the product sense, but also on the technical sense. And what I mean by that is this. This is the setting that Tornado Cash operates in. There's one hiding commitment, and there's one user that modifies this hiding commitment. This user modifies this hiding commitment using a zero-knowledge proof. So this is the setting that Tornado Cash set forth, and since this is the one that everyone learned in their classrooms, they're like, okay, when we're working on privacy technology, let's start with this setting, and let's start trying to do things with it. And the interesting part comes in when we realize that, hey, what's the most interesting thing that we can do with this setting? Well, we can have this user log on to the Ethereum world computer with a different account. We can submit a zero-knowledge proof of ownership of this commitment, and if this commitment is any store of value at all, then what we essentially ended up with is anonymous money. This second ghost user account now can spend money that was originally associated with the old account, but now can no longer be linked. This is a delinking technology. And so when we're looking at this, and we're looking at the setting, and if this is the most interesting thing that we can do with the setting, then of course everyone always ends up in the direction of, all right, if we want to use ZK, if we want to use hiding properties, how do we make anonymity really useful to people in a way that doesn't get us all in trouble? And that's essentially it. So the setting is what we want to de-anchor ourselves from. And to de-anchor ourselves, we need to really get to the bottom of what about this setting makes it troublesome in the first place. And the answer is this. This setting is essentially functioning as an independent state machine. There's one commitment, which is a store of state, and there's one user that rolls forward this commitment, that rolls forward this state. That's an independent state machine. And it suffices to say that if we are deploying independent state machines on top of a collaborative state machine, which is what blockchains really are, then we're not really getting the full utility of the underlying substrate that we're deploying to. In short, independent state machine on top of collaborative state machine does not fully maximize what we can do. And that's why we're sitting pretty at 5% right now. We're not tapping into the 95%. And so what's the fix? Most of you are probably already see where this talk is going. It's saying that these independent state machines need to become collaborative state machines that are backed by hiding commitments. And this is where we hit the 95%. For the purpose of this talk, I don't really want to make up a new word. I just call it collaborative privacy. Please don't anchor to this and make it a new thing. It's just privacy. It just happens to be in a multi-party setting where one person is hiding, or many people own a hiding commitment. And so now at this stage of our chat, we have two choices. Either one, we can talk about how this is done, or we can talk about what can we do with it. Why are we even doing this? And I took the liberty of deciding that we should talk about the second one. Nobody really wants to hear how we do this. We want to hear about why it's important. And then later on, maybe we can look at the technical details of how to actually pull this off. And so for the rest of this talk, just assume that we have some technology that allows us to have a multi-party, a collaborative state machine, and have its state be backed by a hiding commitment. And so now let's focus on what can we build, what are the cool applications. And I'm grouping applications that are in this 95% into two categories, because this is what privacy and the space of privacy really needs. The first category is creative, joyful applications. Like we need applications that do something new, that create a joyful experience for users that people wouldn't otherwise have access to. That's category A. Category B is a set of applications that already exist in the traditional world, but are ported onto the blockchain world so that they're more open and they're less corruptible. It's a purely better thing. And so the 40 IQ way of looking at this is either we need to make something new or we need to take some old thing and just make it better. That's really the only thing that's going to swing public opinion away from privacy equals something bad. And so when I'm talking about these today, I'm going to talk about some applications, and these applications are going to be fun toys for category A, serious toys for category B. And notice here that as I talk, none of these toys have anything to do with anonymity. None of these toys have anything to do with the potential for laundering money. And one of these toys might just kill privacy. So starting off with the fun toys, we have two queued up today. The first fun toy is a contrarian game show. Now this is an idea that is contributed directly by Small Brain Games. He's one of my friends, and he's one of the most creative consumer builders in the space, and this is directly attributed to him. So for the contrarian game show, imagine this. You have an app on your phone, and once a day you get a question that has no objective truth. Like, what's your favorite color? And it's your job to look at this question and pick whatever option you think and stake as much ETH into whatever option you think is going to be picked the least. So if it's a common belief game where you're thinking, okay, no one really likes brown, like I'm going to stake ETH on brown. Or, oh wait, everyone's thinking that, maybe I'm going to stake ETH on blue instead. And at the end of the day, when all of the votes are tallied, when all of the stake is put down, the winnings of the entire pot across all four categories are put towards whoever voted for the right option, and it's paid out proportionally. And so this is a game that fits all of our criteria internally of what's something that's interesting. One, it has a strong virality component. This is something that I genuinely want to play with my friends, and I'd want to log on to, and it's really easy to access into your phone and get exposure to what crypto can really do. And then two, it actually makes sense with blockchains. Like this is something that it would actually be a drag to build in the Web 2 world, because you have to think about custody, you have to think about Venmo integration, you have to think about how to get through the App Store approval process, none of that. You can spin this up very quickly if you build on blockchain tech. And that's what we're really all about. Do things that are uniquely afforded by blockchain technology, and then figure out just how to get them done. And part of how to get them done here is this roadblock. You can't have the stake be fully visible on chain, or else the game is trivial. So instead, what you do is you have the stake and you put it behind a hiding commitment. And these hiding commitments are contributed to by everyone that's going towards that option. And so this is a setting that we're already familiar with at this point in the presentation, where there's one hiding commitment, and there are multiple people that are contributing to this hiding commitment. This is a collaborative state machine. And that's one of the use cases on why it's so easy to tap into the 95% with collaborative privacy. So that's one fun toy. Let's talk about another one. I like this one a lot because I call it experimental dating. This is directly inspired by our friends at Tomo. They're building a Web3 social wallet. So experimental dating answers this one question. What happens if we run out of things to do on-chain and just had to decide, all right, we're going to start doing on-chain dating now, and we really force it, like, let's see what we can do with this. And so let's put an entire dating graph on-chain and see what happens. And what this ends up being is that if everyone's seen Tinder, you swipe right, you swipe left, that swipe ends up being something that ends up on-chain. And so why would you want to do this? Well, the boring reason is that given the Tinder social graph, if it's fully on-chain, if there's open composability, then you can build Bumble, you could build Hinge, build Christian Mingle on it really easily, and everyone can contribute to the same social graph. That's the boring reason. I don't think we should actually do this because that's something that already exists, and there are many other reasons why that is not needed. Well, what is cool is that now we can do things like, what if we run Tinder Date Night Edition? We say, hey, clusters of people that have swiped right on each other in New York City should go and organize a date night in someone's apartment and have fun with that. Or you can have Tinder Love Island edition. People that swipe left on each other, but actually really should swipe right because they have so many common interests, get another shot. And notice that both of these, Date Night and Love Island edition, can't really stand on their own 2 feet. They're like weird experiments that don't really have a home anywhere and would never bootstrap their own networks. But because of open composability, by posting state on chain, they actually have legs to actually run a good experiment. So if you do this, my claim is, if you do this maybe 20 times, where each of these experiments takes you 2 weeks to spin up, and you do something new with it, then you might just end up stumbling on the future of dating. And the future of dating could be on-chain, and that's my on-chain dating thesis. So that's on-chain dating. It makes sense from a thesis perspective. On the implementation perspective, we are missing one crucial thing. It's weird to put dating on-chain. Like, it's just uncomfortable to have your entire dating history. So instead of putting the actual swipes on-chain, you must put them behind a hiding commitment. And again, we see hiding commitment, 2 people. It's a collaborative state machine. This is collaborative privacy. And that's the second one. That's the second toy that we're talking about today. We're actually working with some people to build this, so you might find the love of your life on a crypto dating app soon. Although that will be like 95% male, so that I don't know. We'll have to figure out the logistics. So those are 2 fun toys. Unfortunately, we do have to talk about a serious toy, so a lot of other people take us seriously. And the serious toy that I'm going to be talking about right now, which I very strongly believe in from a thesis perspective, is the competitive DEX. And this is directly inspired by our friends at Derivio. They're building something new that's going to come out this summer, and the ideas for this and the thoughts of this, all of the credit goes to them. So let's get to it. Centralized exchanges bootstrapped this industry. We would not be where we are without centralized exchanges. And we all eventually thought that these centralized exchanges would give way to the decentralized counterparts. This was important to all of us because it's important for the main drivers of economic volume in our space to be tied to something that actually abides by the principles that we have as a space. Principles such as self-custody, principles such as the removal of third-party provider risk. And this is a critical transition that we were really counting on. The only issue is that this didn't really happen. Today, all of the action still lies on centralized exchanges, and that's an issue. Because for the very reason that they don't abide by the principles that we have, they don't abide by why we're all building in blockchains in the first place. And because of that, many of the biggest catastrophes that have existed in our space were due to the failures of centralized exchanges. So this needs to change. Like, we need to figure out why aren't we not getting through this hump? And there are many reasons why, and many reasons are contentious. One of the reasons that aren't contentious is that DEXs don't really work because they can't preserve alpha. The entire jobs of professional traders that drive all of the volume of these centralized exchanges revolve around building alpha and preserving alpha. So if you're trying to pitch them to come onto your decentralized exchange because you want to compete with the centralized exchange, you're trying to say, hey, come over here, it's better for the space, it's better for the long tail risk, but the only thing is you just have to give up all your alpha, like, no worries. It's a very hard pitch to make, and I can say from personal experience because I've tried to make this pitch, it is not good. So the natural answer here is if you want to put something on chain that has all the verifiability properties of blockchains and has the censorship resistance properties of blockchains, you need privacy in the blockchain stack. And there are many functions of a centralized exchange that individually need to be wrapped up in some privacy solution. It's everything from like private positions, like you don't want to know, you want your competitors to know what assets you hold, how leveraged you are in each of these assets, what are you borrowing with it, or it could be open orders in an order book. All of these need to be wrapped up because all of this leaks alpha. The one I'm going to talk about today is something we've all seen many times before already, where a whale wants to do an ETH SOL swap with size on chain. They naturally don't want to do this on chain or else they get screwed because everyone sees that someone's dumping ETH for a lot of SOL. They're going to say, okay, this guy probably knows something. They're going to place bets, they're going to place bids that are in the same direction, and then the whale gets the worst price. So the whale doesn't want to put it on chain. So the solution then is natural. Instead of putting, I want to dump a bunch of ETH and get a bunch of SOL on chain, you put that behind a hiding commitment. And this hiding commitment needs to be accessed by both the whale who is trading and the counterparty who's actually filling this order. And this generalizes to n numbers of parties. So this is something that we've already seen multiple times. one hiding commitment, multiple people. It's a collaborative state machine. Collaborative privacy. So the upshot here is if you want to have a decentralized exchange that actually has a good chance of competing against a centralized exchange, you need privacy to actually work. And this is only the beginning. So we've talked about 3 toys today, and we've talked about game shows and dating protocols and decentralized competitive DEXs. And that's only the start. We haven't even started talking about MMORTS games, production studios, auction houses, extraction shooters, lending platforms, social stake environments. The list goes on. And notice when I have this list in front of you, there's a bunch of novel ideas that many of which haven't even hit crypto yet, is that none of them sound like privacy. You're not hearing any of them and saying, oh, this is immediately like ringing a bell, like this is like Tornado Cash, this is privacy, this is all of it. None of that. That's because it's because we're operating in this 95%. We can only do that because we're going off this collaborative state machine model, where there's one hiding commitment and multiple people. And so this model is the key to how we can swing public opinion away from this small 5% that is pretty problematic for a lot of us, and swing public opinion away from that and into this 95% of greenfield, great user experiences, and better applications for the world. And it's the key to doing this. It's the key to shaking off these product and technical anchors that were set forth by Tornado Cash all these years ago. And it is the key to how we can kill privacy. And before I end my talk today, I'm going to briefly go over to this next slide and talk about all of the people that are doing incredible work in privacy that I have learned so much from each of them, and they've done great work for the space. So thank you so much to them. I want to give a big shout out. All of the credit goes to them as well. And that's it. My name's Lyron, and that is my pitch for why we should kill privacy. Thank you, everyone.